Hello, Facebook. This is Tommy Valentine with Historic Athens. We want to thank you for joining us today for our 1 o'clock episode of This Moment in History, COVID-19 in Athens, Georgia. Today is the 25th episode of This Moment in History, and we really appreciate those of you that have made it a habit every weekday at 1 o'clock to tune in. If this is your first episode you're watching, two things we want you to know. One is that all previous episodes are currently available in the videos section of our Facebook page. So if you just go to facebook.com/Historic Athens, look under videos, you'll see all of our prior interviews. And those interviews include discussions with business owners, elected officials, all kinds of folks that help define Athens as a community. The other thing we want you to know is this is more than just a conversation that you can sit and listen to or watch. This is also a conversation you can participate in. So all you need to do is comment below this video while it's live. So if while we're having this conversation, you have a question, a comment, a word of encouragement, any feedback at all, just comment below the video and we'll bring it on air and we'll make it part of today's discussion. Here's why that's important. At the conclusion of all 55 of these interviews, we are going to actually contribute this entire project as a digital archive to our local research institutions and libraries. That means that by commenting today, you'll be a part of that historic record for future generations who wish to look back at this series to understand what life in Athens was like, and especially what Athens life was like during COVID-19. With that said, you may have noticed the Historic Athens logo in the top of your screen, the top corner of your screen. A little later in the program, we'll explain to you what Historic Athens is and how you can get more involved if you're someone that really loves Athens, someone who really just loves history. But for now, the most important thing is we want to go ahead and bring on today's guest. So today's guest is going to be no stranger to many of you. Some of you have met him in several of his various community roles, but more likely than not, you've met him through his role with Boys and Girls Club of Athens. Sterling Gardner has been a pivotal force in not only ensuring that operation can continue to run, but also in the way it's grown over the last several years. So with that said, I want to go ahead and bring Sterling on so he can introduce himself to all of you. So I'm going to go ahead and click two things here that's going to enable us to bring him on screens. All right, and there we are. Sterling, hello. How are you today?
Great, Tommy. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Always good to have another shaved head on the program. Sterling, as I mentioned, a lot of the people viewing this session will have known you, have interacted with you, but it's very likely that we're also going to have some viewers that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, or maybe some future generation that's looking back at this 100 years from now. And so to those modern day viewers and future viewers, can you take some time to introduce who you are, explain your relationship with Athens, Georgia, and then also detail some of the work you do in our community?
Well, Tommy, first of all, it's great to be with you. I think this is a great project that you're doing. For those of you who don't know, I am a native Athenian. I've been a part of the Boys and Girls Club organization as a professional now for the last 27 years. And grew up here and I've made this my home, and I've been involved with many organizations, East Athens Development Corporation, many others, and I just try to get in where I fit in, and it's been a great ride. Of course, here at the Boys and Girls Club, I've been the director of development since 2001.
Wow.
Working mostly with our great donors and funders and investors and people who keep our great organization going for our young people.
Wow. So, we're going to take a few minutes here and make sure that our audience gets to know you as a person and as a professional. At some point, we're going to tilt towards talking about specifically what your work has been like under COVID-19, but I'll have to file away that you started working in development in 2001. So that means that now you'll have had the distinction of trying to figure out nonprofit development in a post 9/11 world, and now in a COVID-19 world. So certainly you've been through some difficult chapters. That's those are hard times to fundraise, I'm sure. Um, you Athens is a musical city. You're also someone that's musical yourself, right? You have a little bit of a musical background too, right?
That is correct. I am a musician with the Mount Calvary Baptist Church over in Commerce, Georgia, and I've also played and performed at many churches around Athens. New Grove Baptist Church with
Mhm.
Dr. James Washington, Thankful Baptist Church in Oglethorpe County, and so I've enjoyed all of those wonderful relationships with many ministries around Northeast Georgia.
Absolutely. Now, I want to take some time, Sterling, because we've had other people on the program that deal with youth development. I know we had a great conversation with Cheryl Leggett a few weeks ago. Um, there are some folks out there that might not have experienced Boys and Girls Club. I didn't experience it as a young person, but thanks to you, I had the opportunity to volunteer there as an adult. And it really is, it's an incredible organization that makes a really almost immeasurable impact on our community and the youth in our community. Could you take a few minutes to just outline for our viewers how the Boys and Girls Club works and what makes it a distinct program?
Well, the biggest thing, Tommy, is that Boys and Girls Clubs of Athens, we're here to serve the young people who need us most. Um, and, a lot of times when people think about that, they think about economically disadvantaged kids. But um, any kid is at risk or needs us because, again, there are many kids with two working parents that go off every day, but they're not necessarily, by the time the kids get out of school, it's a great place for the young people ages 6 to 18 to come, do their homework, get additional academic instruction, and of course, have a lot of fun. So there are many great activities here at the Boys and Girls Club that they can participate in.
Mhm.
We also partner with many great organizations, including Chess and Community, and many others, to make sure that we give our young people a very well-rounded experience.
Absolutely. And that well-rounded experience includes all kinds of facilities. I think I've seen, I mean, you've worked in the past to ensure access to music studios, athletic activities, all kinds of things. Let's say that there's someone viewing this right now who's a parent who is considering having their kid get involved with Boys and Girls Club when it's safe to do so. Can you tell us a little bit about what that parent and what that child could expect?
Um, Well, again, they can expect a lot of fun. We are anxiously awaiting, hopefully, opening up for the summer at some point
Mhm.
during the summer. Of course, we are trying to take the as many safety measures as we can put in place to make
Mhm.
sure that everybody, including our young people, and our staff are safe. So it's going to be a little bit different for us this year. We probably will not have as many kids in the program,
Mhm.
but our thing is to make sure that the experience that they do have is an enjoyable one. There will be basketball. There will be summer learning activities, summer brain game. There will be reading
Yeah.
activities. So there will also be academic activities that they can also participate in during the summer.
Sterling, before we fully turn into the COVID-19 and address some of the issues you just described, some of that idea of safety and reopening, I want to just finish fleshing out Sterling Gardner, native Athenian. So, anyone who knows you knows that you're someone who's very passionate about Athens. You're very involved in Athens. You're one of, I think, the top 5 people that if I go to a large event, I expect to run into somewhere. You're just everywhere. So where does that passion for Athens come from? What are some of your perspectives on Athens as a community?
I think that passion actually comes from my family, particularly my father. My father was a local insurance agent, and his office was on Hot Corner, actually in the Morton
Mm.
building. So
Wow.
I spent a lot of my formative years growing up right there, on the corner. I think it was actually the third floor of the Morton building, looking right out the front window,
Wow.
and I could see Wilson's Barbershop and all of those wonderful historic places that are still there. My father was actually one of the first African Americans to run for city council all the way going back to 1963,
Wow.
and and which was the year I was born, by the way. And because of many threats that he received, he actually withdrew from the race because, of course, at that particular time, it was not a very popular time to be an African American candidate in Athens, Clarke County.
Sure. Yeah, we're talking 7 or 8 years before even school integration. So that's an incredible time to run. You are a very outgoing person. You're someone who rarely seems to be uncomfortable. Somewhat of a chameleon. I think that I've seen you at jazz events and country club events and everything in between, and you always seem to fit in wherever you are. Is that something you think you inherit from your father's desire to be outgoing in this community?
I think so. I was very exposed, I think, as a young child. And so, because of that, I think again I have sometimes a different perspective than many African Americans in this community that grew up in this community that are my age. Because of what was going on racially here in Athens, Clarke County, when I began the first grade, which was 1969, that was actually
Mm.
the first year of full integration here in Athens, Clarke
Wow.
County. And my father was not very comfortable with that integration process. And I ended up spending my first 7 years of elementary and partially in middle school at St. Joseph's. Now,
Wow.
uh, I don't know. I don't know how we go from desegregation to being in an environment where at the time there were only three African Americans in the
Right.
whole school at St. Joseph's. But I think it kind of helped shape who I am. I've never been
Mhm.
afraid to talk to anyone, and I've always just tried to make friends. And even my experience at St. Joseph's, even from the beginning, while a little bit rocky, it was a very nurturing and comfortable experience that gave me the opportunity to be able to see people from different cultures, different backgrounds. And by the way, I'm Baptist.
Yeah.
Growing up in a Catholic school, so and so of course different religious denominations also. So from that
Right.
standpoint, I think that that's kind of one of the reasons why I am so comfortable in so many other environments.
Sterling, one thing you said, I just wanted to flesh out a little bit for our viewers. So, you mentioned that your father wasn't really comfortable with you being involved in that integration, those first few years of integration. I imagine that was a really volatile time to be in the schools. Can you outline for a little bit on what made him uncomfortable about being in Clark County schools at that time?
That was one of the things that we really never discussed that much. I think again his concern at the time was could be the potential of the racial violence that
Sure.
that may actually happen from a standpoint of uh, teachers and other students and parents not being comfortable um, with full integration. I think it was just a very different time. And he felt that by at least putting me in a private school environment, a private Christian environment,
Mhm.
that it would allow me the opportunity to be safe. I think after I was thriving in that environment and really did not want to leave, I had the opportunity to complete again my early education there.
So, Sterling, we talked about how now that you have this unique background and this unique experience, you've gone on to serve for, gosh, I mean, almost 2 decades now in the development world. I think that that's a world that's widely misunderstood by the public about kind of how nonprofit development works, why that term that development is used in the first place. I think for the first several years I knew you, I thought you ran the Boys and Girls Club, right? I mean, it's obviously you're if there was a flag for the Boys and Girls Club of Athens, I'd expect to have this, Sterling's face on it, and maybe Mike's Chuck's. But can you tell us a little bit about what it means to work in development, in nonprofit development? How does that work?
I think more than anything else, when people say development, the first thing that they think about is truly fundraising. But
Mhm.
when I think about development, the biggest thing first thing that I think about is developing relationships and friendships. Because I
Mm.
think to have the opportunity to be able to ask anyone to be a part of your organization, to be of assistance and be a help to you, then there's a get to know you process. Uh, I, it makes it a little bit easier for it being the Boys and Girls Club that we have this big national presence. But you would not most people don't understand that Boys and Girls Clubs of America does not account for almost any of our local budgets. We have to go out and develop that from our local community. And sometimes
Mhm.
that perception, a lot of people have said, "Well, I don't want to give to you because they see us on Major League Baseball, NBA, and they see those big $1 million checks." Well, they don't understand those $1 million checks don't come to our club. If the All Star game is being held in San Francisco, Boys and Girls Clubs of San Francisco may receive some dollars, and then Boys and Girls Clubs National receives some dollars. Then
Right.
there may be some programs out there that are based on baseball or character and leadership development that can be passed through, but those dollars are very small. And of course, we have over 4,000 clubs throughout the United States. So even if that was a $1 million and it was divided up equally, that doesn't come out to a lot of money.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and bring a comment I see here on screen. So this is from Kelly Kearney Rainey. Sterling is a wonderful guy. I know that's a concept that a lot of people would agree with. I'm bringing this up, because I know Sterling's good at a lot of things. Processing compliments isn't necessarily one of them, so why not embarrass our guest? But
I'll
also, I'll
take
just
one
say that
from
if
Kelly. I think she's a wonderful person too.
okay, well there we go. He's capable in this case. If you have other nice things to say about Sterling, or you have questions for him as we're going along about the Boys and Girls Club of Athens, or about some of the subject matter on COVID we're about to discuss, feel free to just do what Kelly just did. Make a comment below the video, and we can share it with our audience. Uh, Sterling, I guess one last thing I'm interested in sharing with our audience is you your your paycheck says Boys and Girls Club of Athens, but you're also someone who I know uh, supports Boys and Girls Club operations outside of Athens. That you work to kind of celebrate the mission across the board. Uh, can you tell us a little bit about that side of your work? Because I know that you're someone about very passionate about the Athens community, but you must hate having free time or something, because you're always helping outside of the county line as well.
Well, the thing is, you always want to do whatever you can close to home.
Mhm.
The one great thing about this staff, this organization, we have great relationships. We also administrate. A lot of people don't know that we also administrate the Boys and Girls Clubs of Winder Barrow County.
Oh wow.
And then we also have very strong relationships and ties with Boys and Girls Clubs of Jackson County and other organizations that are in Northeast Georgia. And so it's just a natural bond between many of Boys and Girls Club personnel to always reach out and lend a helping hand to each other. So I think that's a natural thing. I think for most people that kind of work in our industry, and then we have so many other great partners that we work through with the United Way, and you know we couldn't feed 175 kids a day at each location without the help of the food bank. I mean,
Right.
there's just so many. When they talk about we're all in this together. Well, locally, we've been living that way for a long, long time, which actually really makes this situation that we're in at the moment um, probably a little bit more palatable than it is in some other places. big cities and things like that. We're used to being able to pull together as a community, not only just here locally in Athens, Clarke County, but as a region also.
Absolutely. So let's tilt a little bit to the time that we're in right now. So, I love your depiction of development, that it's more than just fundraising, that you're inviting people in the community to be a part of the organization you're in. That's something that is a very specific type of work. It takes a very specific type of approach. I'm sure it's an approach you've honed over the last 2 decades of doing that work. All of a sudden, you can't go meet with people in person. You can't do the same kind of things you were doing before. So, can you explain a little bit about how the last 9 to 10 weeks has affected your work in development?
Well, again, for us, fortunately, again, the work is still about relationships. And now more than ever, it's just a little bit different. Um, Normally, you and I would be meeting at a Waffle House at this time.
That's
Uh,
right.
or if we were having a conversation, we'd be doing it in a radio studio. We'd be doing
Right.
this interview in person. So all of a sudden now, you and I have been texting a lot. Hey, brother, how are
Right.
you?
Right.
We're here doing a formal interview, completely digital. And those are some of the things that we're doing with our donors. We're trying to let them know that we still have a need. We're actually are serving our kids digitally, with virtual programming and things like that. I've reached out to many of them with just phone calls, not just saying, "Hey, we need your support right now," but "Hey, how are you doing?" Because many of our supporters are are doing okay during this time, but of course, many of our businesses are struggling. We've had
Right.
a long relationship with people like Jamie Lofton and Locos. And,
Mm.
right now we already know that the restaurant industry is being decimated. And the thing is, before I could even call Jamie, Jamie calls me up and he just goes, "I don't want to talk any business right now. I know we're not going to have a steak and steak dinner this year. I
Mm.
just want to know how you and your family are doing." And
Right.
so it's those type of relationships. It took us 15 minutes to get, to the business part. And the only part about the business is that he goes, "Our business is hurting, but we're going to do whatever we can do as a business, and I will do anything I can do to still personally support your kids." So it's truly about the relationships. While maybe the way that we congregate and the way that we talk is different.
Mhm.
I'm not in your office. I'm not at your
Right.
party. I'm not at your fundraiser. We still get the opportunity to pick up the phone more and now and talk, or we Zoom or we do Facebook Live and things like that to communicate. So um, one of the things that our motto through this COVID-19 crisis for Boys and Girls Club is that the need doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Right.
And so,
Sterling, uh, any of our regular viewers will note that the subject of Waffle House has come up quite frequently on this. I spend my dollars right now at local businesses that are doing curbside, and I'm sure you're doing a lot of the same stuff. We encourage anyone out there watching to continue to do that. Our small businesses definitely need your support. But yeah, so Sterling alluded to. I've become a Waffle House addict, and Sterling's the reason for that. I was wondering, Sterling, when it comes to your regular habits, you I mean, you literally have a Waffle House you're so well known at. You get to keep honey behind the counter, like you're honey. I mean, and I was wondering, all of us that work in nonprofit have our own ways of managing the stress, the scope, the scale of the work we're doing, the challenge ahead, which is it's a big challenge. You're effectively saying, here's an organization that deserves to exist, and it's your job, Sterling, to help it grow as much as it can. And that's never a job where you go home and go, even the night after Steak and Steak, you don't get to go done, right? And so I know that Waffle House mornings have probably been an important part of your rituals that keep you sane. What has it been like without that ritual?
I've had to learn how to scramble eggs again. And to cook the bacon, of course. So it's always the bacon egg biscuit. So
That's right.
I've done a little bit more cooking, but I have taken time out to exercise more, to walk in the morning. That time between 8:30 and 9:30 that I would normally be at the Waffle House.
Right.
But the thing is, I'll say this: I really haven't missed the Waffle House. I've missed the camaraderie of the Waffle House
Right.
because again, as you know, and I think you kind of started taking after me in that. It's a comfortable place just to go and talk and
Right.
connect with people. And so normally when I'm there, there's 3 or 4 people at the table with me. And there's
Right.
10 or 15 people in the whole place that I know. And I invite even newcomers to come and join. So it's a comfortable place. It's a comfortable, intimate place for people to get a chance to know each other, have a cup of coffee, have a conversation. And that's where the development begins. Um,
Right.
um, our wonderful wine tasting that we have. Um, came out of 2 friends, Hank Randolph, who at the time ran Tall Boy Beverage, right
Mhm.
across the street from the Waffle House that I like to go to.
Right.
Bonnie Mui, another founder and board member of
Yeah.
ours now. Um, that that relationship was forged out of Hilltop Grill. And so when you talk about why do you see me at so many places, first of all, I truly enjoy meeting people, but it's also an opportunity for me to get to know them and let them know who I am as a person, but also how important and the reason why I do what I do and how important I feel and how passionate I feel about my organization and my kids so that hopefully I can instill that same passion in them. And then that's when dollars start to flow. It's truly
Right.
not, you just can't go in and say, stick them up, give me your money. It's just not the way how it works. And I'm very fortunate that I don't have that personality to do it that way anyway. So.
Well, certainly there's an overlap between building good relationships and dealing with your blood sugar. I mean, that's something I've learned from you. Jeremy Field chimed in to say, "I'm so desperate for a waffle that we're looking at buying a waffle iron, but the fellowship with others is certainly more missed." I'm not going to reach off frame here. I'd have to get up, which I want to stay on screen here, but I'll just say that Jeremy, I made waffles this morning in a waffle iron I bought since this started. I also visited the Waffle House virtual the website, and you can buy their hash browns and Waffle House mix right now. That's how much Sterling has ruined my nutrition. Uh, Although, yeah, Sterling, you are more of a side of bacon and cup of coffee guy. So, um, Sterling, one question we've been asking our guests related to COVID has been what the timeline was like for you when this got real. Because for almost everyone we talk to, there's a slight different timeline. Some folks it hit way earlier, some folks it hit way later. When did this really come into your focus, and when did it start affecting your day to day work?
Well, it was pretty early on. We were in the middle of spring break,
Mm.
and the program Get Stimulated, that's run by Monique Sanders, was doing a really great spring break program like they do every year, and it's a much smaller group of kids in very intimate setting. And we're then the next thing I know, we're expecting our kids to be able to come back to the club the
Right.
next week. You know, all the staff had taken vacation and everybody or our program staff, and they were all fresh and ready to come back. And then Mike gets us all on a phone call and goes, "School is not reopening, and we're going to stay closed right now. Also, we're going to follow the school district protocol. And I
Mm.
advise most of you, because some of our people had been traveling, that for the next 2 weeks, you don't even come into the office."
Right.
And, that was a very sobering thought for me. I'm in the middle. Adriana and I are in the middle of planning for Steak and Steak,
Right.
you know, and other activities. we're waiting for the kids to come back, and all that noise. And now you all of a sudden your world is turned upside down, saying you've got to go home. Um,
Right.
Not that we don't need you anymore, but you just got to go home, and that's just kind of, it's just a weird feeling for those of us who are really used to a routine. It was that it hit for real, and then I think probably about 2 weeks after that, when they came back out with the second round, we're going to stay closed for even longer.
Right.
While I work in administration, our admin offices are right in the middle of a club. I never thought that I would miss the sound of kids so much in my life, because
Right.
I was just missing something. And
Right.
so by after 2 weeks after we closed, it really got real that first of all, we're in the middle of something really, really major, and something like, probably, I know that people, especially of my generation and your generation, have never seen before.
Right. Uh, in just a moment, Sterling, I'd like you to explain to our viewers how, if anyone feels motivated to help Boys and Girls Club of Athens, how they can do so. Before we do that, I'm just going to very quickly thank some of the folks who have helped us. So bear with me, Sterling, one quick second. So the names you see on the screen right here, these are our annual sponsors. We always try once per program to thank them. So and the names and logos you see here represent organizations that support our 501c3 throughout the year. We are a 52-year-old nonprofit. There's a lot of history that comes with that. Unfortunately, that history doesn't mean our bills get waived. And so every dollar helps, whether you're a sponsor, as you see here, or we also have individual donor members. Fortunately for us, we have a lot of people around the community who believe in what we do. If you'd like to join that group and become a donor member, please visit historicathens.com. You can find out information how to become a sponsor or a member. Membership starts at only $5 a month. We'd love to have you. We need that support. And so please consider it. Also, each week of this program is brought to you by a different weekly sponsor. This week, including today's program, is brought to you by First American Bank and Trust. We really appreciate everyone, Julie, Jeff, Susan, everyone over there that helped us with our PPP situation, everyone who helps the community in general at First American and the various ways they invest in local history. Thanks to them for making today possible. On your screen now, you see the list of the 55 people we're interviewing for this series. I know the list seems a little small, so you can visit our Facebook page to get a zoomable version of this list. We're so thrilled that Sterling is one of the names on this list. On Monday, we're going to talk to John from DSI Design and Construction. We're really excited about that. And there's a lot of names still ahead. So definitely please take a look at that and keep tuning in every weekday at 1 o'clock until the series concludes on June 26th. And then last thing here, and then we're going to bring Sterling back on screen. Uh, we introduced this week a new series. As many of you know, we also operate the Athens Welcome Center, and since welcome centers across the state are still closed, our Welcome Center staff has been finding new ways to welcome you around the community. That includes this list you see right here, the virtual programming that began this week. So when we wrap up at 2 o'clock, you can head over to the Facebook page for the Athens Welcome Center for a special broadcast. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Interim Director Michelle Wynn is broadcasting from some of the National Register sites around Athens. Today will be the Bishop House. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, full-timer Caitlin Short has been doing some virtual workshops from the site of the Welcome Center. So check that out at 2 o'clock, and we'd love to have that conversation with you. So, all right, so Sterling, you just saw, the audience just saw me thank our sponsors. Certainly, you know better than anyone how much of a difference even having one new supporter can make in the span of an organization. If somebody out there is watching this and they feel motivated to help the Boys and Girls Club of Athens, especially now that they know you're not just entirely funded by the All-Star Game or national, Denzel Washington isn't completely funding you. Uh, what should they know about how they can make a difference with the Boys and Girls Club of Athens?
Uh, the easiest thing for them to do, Tommy, is to go to our website, and that's greatfuturesathens.com. Um, and they can just simply uh, click on the donate button or the COVID-19 button, which will talk about all of the programs right now that we are still initiating with our kids, even though they're not physically with us here in the building. And it will take you to a donation page. And of course, as we start looking at opening for summer, you can look at our address. Things like cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer, all of those type of items are also very welcome. So that we make sure that when we do open the club up for our young people, hopefully this summer or whenever that is that they'll be safe and healthy. But again,
Excellent. Absolutely.
that's www.greatfuturesathens.com. Thank you for putting that on the
Absolutely.
screen.
Of course. And, I did it simultaneously with another one of our viewers who also shared a comment. So I just saw Deborah Gonzalez just shared the link too. If you are experiencing this video after it's no longer live, you can just go right into the comment section and click that link. But Deborah also shared the following. These youth programs, Monique's Get Stimulated, Life's Chess and Community, Sterling and the Boys and Girls Club, and so many more are essential for our young people. Thank you, Sterling. Um, the young people that Deborah's talking about, Sterling, I think some folks may not even realize the full scale. And I know you alluded to that a little earlier in the program, but if somebody's just tuned in, can you talk about approximately how many young people in the Athens area your programs impact?
Over a yearly basis, it's close to 2,000, Tommy.
Wow.
We have basketball programs that other children in the community participate in, like young people from the Downtown Falcons and many other youth serving organizations that, again, are great partners of the Boys and Girls Clubs. We see on an average at the two Athens locations about 350 kids
Wow.
per day total. So there are a lot of young people in Athens Clarke County that are positively affected by our programs, and we can't wait to have them back. I think again during this time, I think the schools have done a great job of trying to provide the supplemental education online for many of our young people. We've tried to do that through virtual programming, but you and I both know that again, the virtual world can just truly not, replace that again, that one-on-one, true in-person human interaction. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what makes most and many of the programs here in Athens, Clarke County, and around Northeast Georgia so special. Those hands-on touches, people like ESP and Laura and her group.
Right.
I mean, I can just go on and name them. I guess I'm supposed to be doing the plug for Boys and Girls Clubs of Athens, but there are so many wonderful organizations that do great work and that support each other. And I think that's important to know that we still need to, even in this difficult time, keep supporting each other.
Yeah. The supporting each other angle is something that I think some viewers may be surprised by because there's certain misconceptions that people in Athens have about the nonprofit community. One is that we're all, fighting over the same scraps, or that there's, infinite nonprofits that are redundant with one another. But if you actually look, the nonprofit community, as I know it and as you introduced me to it, is actually pretty collaborative. Folks are really working together. Can you talk a little bit, both for today's audience and for future generations, about what the local nonprofit community is like and how they work together?
I think more than anything else, while let's just be honest, there are certain cases that we are all vying for the same resources. In many
Sure.
cases, as we're vying for the same resources, we're also sharing those resources. I think that
Right.
everyone has their own niche and how they can support each other. Again, one of the biggest ones that I always think of and go back to is always the Athens area the food bank. Uh, Even if we were talking about $1 per meal for the young people in Athens, Clarke County that we serve on a daily basis, that would be $350 a day times five. I can't count
Wow.
that high. My multiplication
Wow.
skill, but that's literally that's literally $1,500 plus per week. Um, and
Wow.
and and so you take that $6,000 a month. You're talking about 70, $80,000, and the need, and it's even more snacks and more meals in the summer. I mean,
Right.
that could easily be $100,000 a year impact on our program that we get back. So when you're
Right.
talking about the nonprofit community here, the one thing that we always try to be respectful of each other, especially because, again, there are, let's be honest, there are some large donors that have the ability to give to more than one organization, and you want to make sure that you don't unfairly smear the name of another organization that may actually be
Absolutely. Yeah.
somewhat supporting your organization too. So it's we're all one big family, and so I think that most of our nonprofits, along with the Athens Area Community Foundation and their staff there, really help, and the United Way really help do a very good job of keeping our resources united, making sure that organizations understand their role and to be a great part and a great steward of our community.
Sterling, we have about 12 minutes together before the top of the hour. And what I'd like to do is just take a moment to ask three questions we've been asking each of our guests. The first one, which maybe we've touched on a bit already, is it's a bit of a light question, but I think it's worth going into. So, Sterling, if you woke up tomorrow and somehow mysteriously and magically this was over. I mean, everything was fine again, everything was open again, this whole situation was done. What would be some of the first places you would go? Some of places you love around Athens that might be closed, or what are some of the places that you miss?
Waffle House for everyone.
Right.
Uh, Locos lemon pepper chicken wings for everyone.
Yes.
um, um, the movie theaters. Oh man,
Yeah.
and so many freaking local restaurants around town. If you notice, I'm kind of hiding my belly because even though I've been exercising, I'm kind of like you. I've also been exercising my right to Uber Eats and trying to even
Right.
get out and pick up things from different local restaurants as they're open. JR Crickets, many of those places. So I mean, our community is so vibrant with really great local businesses and things like that. Um, that it's just almost impossible to answer that question out. It's just so many places, so many things. Hendershots,
Right.
the live entertainment, the music scene, world famous, and some of our favorite independent artists performing. I mean, I'd be doing all of that in a heartbeat if all of this was over.
Absolutely. Yeah. I could go for some lemon pepper wings. That sounds right. Spot on.
I'm at the
All right.
office, Jamie, if he's watching.
Yeah, the delivery address will be sent later. But yes,
He knows the
so
address.
no, I'm talking about mine. I mentioned some lemon pepper wings too. But no, I think that you mentioned. I mean, there's an Athens experience, and some of that is eating, some of that is going to see uh, a movie or a local concert. It's strange to live in a world where you can't go to the DJ Seeger event once a month, or you can't go uh, to Cine, or you can't go to your favorite restaurant. Before we move into these last two questions, I do have to. There was a question I meant to get to earlier, Sterling, which is you mentioned Steak and Steak a number of times in this interview, and Steak and Steak is such a critical part of the Athens event calendar. It's something that people look forward to year round. I know that you've worked really hard to get to that point. it must be really heartbreaking right now to not be in the mix of Steak and Steak and to seeing that through. Can you introduce our audience to the concept of Steak and Steak and what it's been like to live without it this year?
The concept of steak and steak in the old days, it was called the Steak and Burger, and it was actually started in Memphis, Tennessee. And what it would be a dinner that people bought seats or tables, and they would actually dine with the young people, and the kids would get the steak, and the adults would get the hamburger. Outback came on as a national sponsor for a few years, and they said, "Hey, wait a minute, this is a great marketing opportunity. So we're going to call it Steak and Steak." And so now the kids get steak and the adults get steak. Um,
Yeah.
and again, once Outback pulled out of the national partnership, then local Outbacks have the opportunity to do it or not do it. And for 1 year, the first year they were going through a managerial change here in Athens
Mm.
at the Outback, and they decided not to do it. Well, locals stepped up to do the dinner for us. This has had to be 11 or 12 years ago now. Um,
Mhm.
and then Outback came calling and said, hey, we may want to do this for you again. And Jamie goes, heck no, I'm never leaving you, Sterling. He's always been a great supporter of the club. And so it is, the title of it is now the Loco's Steak and Steak Dinner. But over the years, the it has grown tremendously. There's normally there's over 50 businesses that support this particular dinner, and they have a great dinner with. There's two kids seated at each table. While it's
Mhm.
great to have me, Mike Hackett, and Derek Floyd, of course, going out and talking to people about what it is our young people do. As you know, the young people don't normally lie, so they will tell you exactly what's
Right.
going on in the club, what they like, what they don't like, excuse me, who they like, who they don't like. But and normally, hopefully, everybody likes us. We only pick the kids that like us, by the way, to come to the dinner. But it is just a great, it is just a great opportunity for us to be able to showcase our amazing young people. We also name our Youth of the Year at that particular event, and it's just a great celebration. And it's the only event that we actually have where our patrons and our donors can actually interact one on one with our kids for a 2 hour period.
Yeah. Sterling, our last two questions here. First, I just wanted to say that part of what Historic Athens does, our overall thing, I guess, general mission right now has been celebrating and conserving Athens, Georgia. Part of that is historic preservation. Uh, right now we're experiencing the beginning of, or the heart of a recession, and coming out of a recession, sometimes one of the things that happens traditionally is people want to build. That's understandable. Everything we're preserving, someone had to build at some point, so we're pro building, but sometimes that building can uh, endanger historic sites. After a time like this, one of the questions we've been asking each of our guests are, what are some historic spaces that you hope Athens continues to preserve? That way, 50, 60 years from now, if somebody's watching this interview, when they leave, they can still go to some of the same places we enjoy today. What are some of your favorite historic places around Athens, Sterling?
I'll be honest, for me, it is truly just the downtown hub, and not one
Yeah,
particular building, but it's just the character and the feel of those buildings. I'll be honest with you,
right.
when I go to the Morton Theater, even now,
Yeah,
the outside of the
yeah.
building doesn't look very different than when I was going to my dad's office in
Wow.
the late 60s and early 70s. And it just brings back such great memories. Again, Wilson's Barbershop is still there. Places like that, and some of the businesses have changed, but the feel, the buildings themselves, remain. The wonderful architecture um, remains, and that's one of the things that I hope that we are truly able to preserve in this community is especially the facades of those buildings. I
Right.
was in Antwerp, Belgium, a couple of years ago, and it was just amazing because we're talking just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of year old buildings that on the outside and still the very teeny tiny cobblestone streets to the point that I was almost got ran over by a little cab and also somebody driving a bicycle. But the charm of it all, and even though inside some of those buildings there were merchants and shops and things like that, just to see the beauty of the architecture from the outside, you could almost just imagine yourself um, 200-300 years ago in one of those downtown squares,
Right.
in one of those beautiful cathedrals that are in that area. It was absolutely amazing, and it was funny. It reminded me so much of downtown Athens. To be honest
Mm.
with you, just kind of Athens has that kind of little European, you know, feel, and so I hope that though that's for me. That's it. That's the number one. That whole downtown area.
Yeah, I don't know how you say it any better than that. For sure, Sterling, for sure. I see Julie's here. Julie's one of our favorite people. Once again, big thanks to First American for Bank and Trust for helping secure this week for us. But Julie just said this broadcast makes me hungry every day. That is true. I hold Historic Athens responsible for my COVID-19 pounds. We'll own that, Julie. That's fine. We'll hold a big half marathon or 5K when this is all over, and I'll try to show it. Thank you to Sterling and the Athens Boys and Girls Club for helping the youth of our community realize their full potential. Sterling, on Julie's behalf, on Historic Athens' behalf, on my behalf, for sure, all of us in Athens are very appreciative of the way that you improve our community by improving the young people in it. Thank you, Julie, for that comment. So, Sterling, our last question for our time together today it's a broad and open one, which is if someone's watching this interview 50, 60, maybe 100 years from now, what should they know about Athens in this moment during COVID-19?
Athens is a wonderful, wonderful community. Um, we are a community that sticks together. We, um, when we talk about the hashtag, we're all in this together. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing. For again, if you're talking 60 years ago, wherever you see that hashtag, I don't even know if what forms of social media will even exist at that time. um, we're all in this together. The saying itself will always be the same. It's that we are
Right.
that truly that community that before COVID-19 it existed. During COVID-19 it actually seems to still exist, and I suspect and expect that 60 years down the line that when they see this video of you and I, and they'll go, yes, it still exists in this community right now. And I'm just so incredibly thankful for what you're doing
Thank
in
you.
bringing this series about, Tommy, with you in Historic Athens. And I wish you much success with that. And I hope that you and yours and everybody that's listening to this broadcast stay safe during this difficult time. We will come through it, and we'll come through it better than ever.
Absolutely. Well, Sterling, thank you for saying that. I certainly no professional journalist. I just this broadcast, I realized how much I lean on the word absolutely, for example. But this is something that everyone at Historic Athens is genuinely interested in documenting and exploring this moment and doing so earnestly. And you've really contributed to that. Thank you so much for being a part of it. For viewers that are watching this episode, if you've enjoyed it, we'll be back on Monday at 1 p.m. We would really love to have you tune in. We have some regular viewers. One of them actually just chimed in. Alex Sams, thanks, Sterling. As a high school lay coach, I know how important you and Boys and Girls Club are to the community. So to regular viewers like Alex, we hope to see you back at 1 o'clock. To Sterling, I can't wait to go grab some Waffle House with you soon, or we'll have to set up some kind of weird Zoom Waffle House simulation. And invite the other 15 South Millage Waffle House regulars. But thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you to Alex. Thank you to Julie. Thank you to Deborah. Thank you to everyone that tuned in and shared a comment. Kelly, Jeremy. And we will be back at 1 o'clock on Monday. Sterling and I are going to go off live now. Please consider going to the Athens Welcome Center Facebook page for another virtual episode. Thank you and take care. Be safe out there. Have a great day.